Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our Essentials webinar series. So for those of you who've been here before, you'll know that we line up some really great speakers. Credit due to Louise Reeves and the team, who's got some great speakers today. We've also got some lined up for next month. Just give you a bit of an overview of what's coming up. So we've split the webinar series into two types. So there's these Essentials webinars that you're here today to listen to. There's also the Fundamentals series that Carly's putting together. Ryan and Carly are managing us today. Carly's in the co-pilot seat. She's lined up some really good fundamentals presentations. So they're aimed at more operational issues. And some of you might have seen Terry Fagg's presentation a little while ago. He's actually lining up another one on disinfection. We've also got Murray Thompson, who's well-known trainer from New South Wales and all-round guru. He's planning to do his first presentation on high-pressure water jetting, but Carly's actually got a series of about 6 or 7, I think, topics that have gone out to our skills partnership, and they're trying to prioritise them, but with great difficulty because all of them are seen as being pretty useful talks. So that will be coming up in the next month or so. Our next Essentials session is on the 17th of September, and we've got 3 great speakers then too. I'll just give you a bit of a preview. So we've got Joanna Johnston from Logan City Council, who's talking about the Logan gasification project. She's spoken to AWA and a couple of other places, so some of you might have heard about that project. It's an excellent initiative and be good to hear more about. We've got Chris Adam. He's come up with a good title, Show Me the Money, Options for Demonstrating Sustainability in a Water Business. That's based on a paper that we've been working on with him. And then finally, Mark from City of Gold Coast talking about the long-term recycled water release program, the marine crossings down on the Gold Coast. So that's coming up on the 17th of September, and look out for the fundamentals one as well. But without further ado, let's get started with our great presenters today, starting with Jenna Baas from Sunwater, who's going to talk about the Sunwater cultural journey. And don't forget, there's a chat function and a questions area. So if you've got questions during the presentation for Jenna, please put them in there. We'll leave some time to answer some questions, and we'll bring them up if you put them in the chat or questions area. The ones that we can't get to, we'll ask Jenna if she can kindly answer some of them out of session, and we'll share them later on. So thank you very much for joining us, Jenna. Really looking forward to your preso. I'll hand over to you via Ryan.
Hello, everybody. Can I just check that people can hear me all right?
All good.
Wonderful. I work better when people ask me questions, and I hope that this is an informative presentation for you. I'm the People and Culture Manager in Sunwater. I joined Sunwater in March last year, and my previous experience was more in rail and listed companies. This was my first sort of experience in a government-owned corporation. And I'm here to talk to you about what we've been doing to build an organisation where we've got people and customers at the heart of what we do. My reflections on 2020 have been many. And this lovely quote from John Maxwell in terms of what COVID has taught us all. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change, but the leader is the one who adjusts the sails. And I think a lot of organizations can relate to having to adjust our sails throughout the last little while as we work out what it is that we need to do in order to lead our people through the unexpected 2020 that continues. Just making sure I can, there we go. So I'm sure most of you know about Sunwater. If not, I'll give you a little bit of an overview. We have more than 5,000 customers. On average, we deliver enough water each year to fill the Sydney Harbour about 3 times. We have 3 types of customers: urban, irrigation, and industrial. And the large majority of our customers are irrigation customers. However, we make most of our money through our industrial customers, but the majority of our labour and the work that we do is around supporting our irrigation customers. We are mainly Queensland based. We do have a dam in Canberra, Jrney Dam, that we support as well, but we are effectively a regional business, a regional Queensland business. I'm going to talk to you about our transformational journey. So I joined in March last year, and in the previous year before that, there had been significant restructures that affected the corporate business, and 2 years prior to that, significant restructures that affected our regional business. When I joined, what I saw was a very disparate company that was lacking purpose and didn't quite understand what its core business was. So we had an awful lot of what was in Brisbane was controlling what was occurring in the organisation. I worked together with a change manager and we put together what we call this operating model. Now, this operating model has changed the landscape of the company. It talks to the fact that there are support and enabling functions, and their job is to support the core business, which is operations. Operations are the ones that deliver the water to our customers, and they're the ones that make certain that we achieve what our customers are looking for us. Our operations people refer to this as the cog, and they talk about getting tattoos of this cog, because for the first time in their career, they actually understand that what they are doing is the core part of what our business is doing. I can't see any questions yet, so I'm going to assume everything's okay. Now, I understand I've got some more engineers and water operators here, so I'm going to go a little bit more into what our operating model means, because this will be more relevant to you. But we've actually put in place the principle of the asset owner. So we have a GM of operations. They own the assets, the dams, the barrages, the weirs in their region, and they are therefore the ones who make the determination as to what occurs with those assets for the entire of their life cycle, which changes what our project managers and our engineering teams do in terms of who makes the final decisions and how do we inform our GMs so that they actually have enough information about the engineering risks, the construction risks, and the maintenance risks in order to make the best decision for the assets that they will own for the life cycle. So we have our EGM of operations who has overall accountability, but this concept of the asset owner has changed the way in which we as an organisation relate across and talk to each other. So we no longer have a project stream deciding how to build a weir out at Rookwood without any relationship to the assets in that region or what the eventual asset owner will need to do to maintain that asset. We've put in place matrix models. This is something that more mature companies are used to. Sunwater had never had this model before. And that means that if you are working in the project, you actually have two bosses. So you're just as accountable to your project manager as you are to your functional lead. So this is the concept of making certain that you are enjoying and working across the organisation to achieve the right outcome for the business, rather than just what your current boss might think. So we have a range of people, for example, health and safety. They have two leaders that they need to work within. They need to work within the company's health and safety management principles, but they also need to work under the project to make certain that the project meets its objectives from a safety perspective. This has been the piece that's been the hardest to embed in Sunwater. It has, however, created cross-functional collaboration. And I'm sure many of you can relate to working in silos. This is actually starting to break the silos down. We've got better balance between centralisation and decentralisation. So the idea that not everyone that's sitting in the head office, and we don't call ourselves head office, but that's what most people would relate to, that these people are now empowered to make decisions that make the most sense for their business. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our customers here. Our customers are people or entities that we deliver water and services to now or in the future. And I've mentioned the three types and the balance between those. Sunwater is a little unique in that our irrigation business is regulated and our industrial pipelines are not. Yet, as I mentioned before, more than 80% of our labour and assets relate to our irrigation network, as opposed to our industrial pipelines, which makes 80% of our revenue. What we started last year was a customer experience strategy, which for the first time for an organisation that wanted to put customers at the centre actually means that we're doing something about it. We've embedded a range of customer experience principles which are linked to our three core values, which are take responsibility, work together, and value people. We also launched a customer experience training program that about 80% of our workforce has gone through, which is designed to ask ourselves, what are our strengths in those customer experience principles, and what can we do to get better at providing customer service? Now that's focused on our end customer. So we've got dedicated roles and capability in the organisation. We are updating our policies and frameworks for that. We've actually put in place data to measure our SLA performance, and we're actually putting in place customer complaints and feedback frameworks, and making certain that we are billing up our customers more accurately and that they can see the data themselves. And that's a step forward for Sunwater and a step forward for our customers, as you can see by our results. I like data. I hope you guys like data. So we've had a significant increase in our response rate. Oh, sorry, that just went funny on me. Did it go funny on you guys? There we go. A significant increase in our response rate and increase in customer satisfaction score. So we do this twice a year. So in November 2019, we had 77.2% of our respondents. Now we're increasing that significantly. So our annual survey in April, November, and again in April, we've had a huge increase in the number of responses and the positive response from our customers in terms of what we are doing. There are still improvements for us. So we've heard that our customers still want us to understand their business and their water delivery needs. They also want improved communication, specifically regarding Paradise Dam and planned maintenance activities. They also want face-to-face engagement, and they want Sunwater to understand the individual capacity to pay, and that our experience that the customers are looking for is different depending on the different customers we speak to. I'm going to share the internal story around One Sunwater. So we started pulling together a One Sunwater approach. So how do we do things in a consistent way across the company? This is aligned to our 4 strategic goals, which is a safe and high-performing culture, a sustainable business, supportive stakeholders, and a commercially focused organisation. All of these are underpinned by our 3 values of value people, work together, and take responsibility. Never more in the company's history have we focused on what those values mean and how we connect across our strategic goals than in the last 6 months. Sunwater measures our culture. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this tool. It's called Human Synergistics. Just seeing if there's any questions so far. Don't think I can see any questions. Human Synergistics is a tool. It's a global tool. It's not Sunwater's tool, and it measures based on percentiles. So for those of you who like data, the inner circle is the 10th percentile, then 25th, 50th percentile, 70th, 75th, 90th, and effectively 100th percentile for behaviour. So Sunwater as a company, as a typical GOC, has a culture of avoidance, followed by oppositional, followed by conventional. And the story I like to tell about that is, we need you to do something. It's not the right thing. I don't think it's the right thing. Why don't you think it's the right thing? Well, we tried it in 1984, we tried it in 2006, and we tried again in 2011, and it didn't work. But I still need you to do that thing. Well, I don't really think it's the right thing to do. No, I need you to do that thing. Well, then I'll do it exactly the way you tell me to do it. And that to me is about a company that's based in fear. And that fear doesn't necessarily mean, from what I can tell, there doesn't seem to have been many consequences to those sort of behaviours, but it is a company that's based in a government organisation where you follow the hierarchy and you do what you're told. Where we want to be is a highly constructive culture, which is this blue aspect here, one of which where we feel connected to our customer, we feel proud of our role, we feel trusted and trust others in return, we feel responsible for our own safety, and we're respected and supported in our role, and we feel that we can solve problems. Right now, what we faced when I started was a following list of issues. So avoid making mistakes and being criticised, not necessarily feeling trusted, and following the rules to stay safe out of fear because they didn't want to be caught out. I'm going to talk to you now about what my team and people and culture has been doing across the organisation to work on improving our culture and share with you some data around that. So what we've been doing is we have been fixing the foundations. So if you want to fix culture and you don't have the right foundations, then you won't get the consistency that you require. So the foundations for me was that everything should relate back to our 3 core values. There is nothing that we're trying to do that shouldn't be in line with those, no decision we make that shouldn't reinforce those. And therefore, in June 2019, last year, I launched a new code of conduct. We went from a 14-page document to a 6-page document. And that 6 pages simply said, here are our 3 values, and here's what we expect to behave. Here's what we mean by what good behavior is according to those values. Our last code of conduct talked about what you shouldn't do. This one talks about what you should do. We also started a journey to get rid of the 70 people and culture policies. I'm hoping that that seems an alarming amount to you guys, because it did to me. 70 people and culture policies. And then as of June this year, we only have 4 policies, and we've reduced, removed, or combined. So we now have 14 procedures. That's it. That's very simple for our managers to be able to manage. It provides clarity for our employees. And in doing that, we did that in such a way that we were able to resolve a whole range of questions across the business that our procedures never answered in the first place. Things like, can I drive my car, my Sunwater car, to pick up groceries at the end of my shift? Was one of the significant questions for our people. How do I access higher grade and for what period of time? How much leave do I get? How do I collect toil? All these questions that we'd heard, we were able to put very simply and clearly in our policies and procedures, which means the foundations are there to enable our leaders to be able to have better conversations with their staff. We've also connected our people systems. So we have a culture pulse survey. In 18 months, we have moved our engagement up from 29%, which is a very low engagement score, up to 63%. Now that data is based on our last survey, which was finished in June. That's post the COVID working from home. People feel that they are empowered to deliver a great customer experience, either directly or via supporting and enabling their colleagues. So we have 63, we use our boat, being a water organisation. We have 63 people in the boat rowing actively with us. We have 20%, a little bit more, sitting in the boat, sometimes only rowing when we look at them. And we have 1 person in the boat, or 11%, that person's trying to get out of the boat. And that image resonates with our organisation in terms of we want to get as many people rowing with us as we can. We've also put in place a reward and recognition tool, and our reward and recognition is based on improving our everyday work experience to make certain that people are getting better, creating value, and enhancing customer experience. Last year, we ran a different version of our annual awards day, and what you can see there, obviously prior to social distancing, is a competition we ran with the board and members of the staff, trying to figure out how you can build a marshmallow, the highest tower with spaghetti and tape, where a marshmallow would sit on the top. Now, for those of you who do know Sunwater, the following are excerpts of what we've been through in the last 9 months. And I doubt that you're going to find any company that's experienced the same level of scrutiny and issues. In 2019, we had the class action against us. That was against Sunwater, Seqwater and the state in relation to the 2011 floods. That class action is being led by the US. And there are damages that are in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars that will be owed. So we have this class action, which will in some way change the way in which we manage all floods from now on. And it's caused some issues for our engineers in terms of can they make appropriate decisions in risky environments. We've had to indemnify our engineers, and we're having to struggle to make certain that engineers feel like they have a career in this industry post this decision. We have had the COVID response. We had our interim CEO, Lisa Dalton, lead that from the front. We were one of the first organisations to determine that everyone would be working remotely. And we've followed that up with significant learning opportunities for people. And we're proud to say that we've done that really well. We also have had Paradise Dam. And I imagine that most of you would be living under a rock if you hadn't heard about Paradise Dam. Paradise Dam has been in the news and in the media repeatedly. I think last week Landline did a big story on it. Please don't listen to everything that you see on the media. We've had Paradise Dam emergency work start under legal risk of injunction to lower that dam wall in order to make certain that we can keep Paradise Dam as a functional dam. And then what you don't expect as a HR person joining an organisation is you don't expect to find very quickly into your tenure that the company has underpaid a large percentage of its staff for 15 years. And what I can talk about in that case, it was my very last day of probation, and I had to sit down the head of governance, risk and internal audit and my boss and say, I can confirm that there is underpayments, and I can confirm this goes back to 2006, and we now need to start thinking about remediation. That is probably one of the most difficult things I've had to do in my career. And what I'm pleased to say is that our board and our executive have been nothing but supportive and willing to work with the Fair Work Ombudsman and our employees and our past employees to make rectification process. We announced this to our staff on the 6th of December 2019, and we made our first payments in March of 2020, even during COVID, April 2020. We've done this the quickest of any organisation, and we're currently in the process of starting our payments for our ex-employees. This is something that has reduced the trust you would imagine in an organisation. Despite that, the way in which we've gone about it, I can click to the next slide, will tell you that we've gone through all of this, yet our employee engagement is the highest it has ever been. You can see our plot for our employee engagement. So this is where we commenced our surveys. This is when we introduced the operating model in Q4 of FY19. We had a significant drop when we had issues with our enterprise agreement, the underpayments, Paradise Dam. We had the CEO resignation and with the class action. And you can see that the COVID-19 disruption also occurred in our Q4 of FY20. So what I will tell you is that even during difficult times, there are things you can do to engage the culture and engage your workforce to get a better outcome. I'm also sharing with you the results of our COVID-19 survey. So do we think that we've made effective decisions? Are people able to be productive? Can I bounce back? Am I resilient? Am I getting the tools to help to be resilient? Can I stay connected? Is my manager checking in with me? And can I raise concerns? And what you can see overwhelmingly in this is a high percentage of the organisation. And again, we had a response rate of over 75% for this survey. The overwhelming response is that we've been able to, overwhelmingly able to respond to these challenges. I can see I've got a question. I'm pleased. The audience question, with the positive improvements in your culture results, there are still a number of staff that haven't adapted to the changes. How have we been dealing with those who are resistant to the change? That one little person who wants to hop off the boat. Our challenges with those resistant people is working with the unions. So those people who are most resistant to the change are the ones who are waiting on their pay increase. They're the most vocal, and they're the ones who have the reason to be. We haven't had a pay increase for the majority of our staff since 2017, as our EA has expired, and we have been caught up in one legal battle after another to get our enterprise agreement over the line. We've taken a high-touch approach with those people. We've invited them into the bargaining groups, and we've increased our communications with them, and we've engaged with their leaders to make certain that we are proactively using them as our sounding board for what we need to talk about. So rather than use them as we know that they're complaining, we're using them to say, what is it you don't know and how can we explain it? I hope that answers your question. It also tells me that you're listening, which makes me feel better. Normally I like hearing lots of noise. These are some of the things that we're doing to fix things on a long term. So we are connecting our people systems. Last year I introduced levels of work in the organisation. So for an organisation that's existed since 1920, we haven't been clear on what the different levels and layers of work mean, and what does it mean to be a general manager in the company versus a manager versus a leader. And we're a geographic business, and a regional business, but we're also running different product lines. So we have a very confused org structure. By providing clear levels of work, which we've aligned to the Public Service Queensland, so that's Lead for Queensland levels of work, we're creating a differentiation and different expectations for our leaders. And for the first time, they're actually saying, that's not my job. That should be my team member's job. I need to help them do it. my level of work is this, and the language is actually shifting and more predominantly within our operations business than anywhere else. We've also clarified what it means to be a leader in Sunwater. So to be a successful leader in Sunwater, we need to role model our Sunwater values, work at level, own our role, listen and speak up to hold myself and my peers to account, assess, reflect and develop my leadership skills and styles so that I can provide a context and a safe space for people to grow, develop and deliver in their role. So in short, if I'm working on myself and I'm working at level, I'm being an effective leader. We have spent 6 months during COVID building bespoke leadership modules, future fit leaders designed to help people understand where they are and what their strengths are. Future fit teams, how do I then get my team's strengths to work with me? And how do I make certain that I have an effective high performing team? Captain to coach, so how do I get out of the game and start looking at the field and start thinking about the season, not just the game? And leading for tomorrow. What can we learn out of COVID in terms of our adaptability and our bench strengths so that we can start to think about what the next game will be and beyond tomorrow's game? We're about to launch that on the 17th of September, so we're very excited about that. And as a people and transformation team, we're changing our thinking to go how well are we leading and how well supported are they? And then what is going to enable that in terms of new ways of working? What are going to be the new tools, the new technology, the new processes, and the data and information that we provide to enable people to create better leadership decisions, improve capability to build a better culture. One more slide. This isn't done just by the corporate office. We have a very highly active group of culture coaches. They meet monthly. They have 2 simple goals. They want tremendously, and they want to raise money for rural aid. What you can see here, and again prior to social distancing, is the first ever response to Are You OK Day across the organisation, and each one of these pictures represents a different site in our organisation and different ways that people celebrated. Completely run by our culture coaches, spoken about by our culture coaches, and we raised significant money in the organisation. And then we also did Pancake Day. So based in Mariba, someone said, this is what I'd like to do for Shrove Tuesday. Can we do this? And the rest of the organisation gathered around them and said, let's do that. I spoke about our customer experience program a little bit, and also a value improvement program. So our customer experience program helps to embed our customer service principles, and our value improvement program helps people to get skills in practical problem solving, coaching, and continuous improvement. That program has delivered $17.5 million worth of bottom line value to the organisation in a year and a half. Not insignificant. I'm going to hand over to Ryan now to play my closing video, if that's all right. Ryan, I'm hoping you can take over.
Yep, I'll just switch now.
I'm not getting any sound there, Ryan. Jenna, you might need to speak over it.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks very much. That was excellent. Really interesting stuff. We don't have much time for questions, but I was really impressed that you've, when you've got stuff that want to tattoo your infographic on them, that's probably my aim now. You're now my idol. I was just wondering how much COVID slowed you down. It's obviously a big change program that you're going through. Do you think you would have gone faster without COVID, or has it actually helped? Has it been a bit of a lever for change?
COVID didn't change an awful lot about the pace or the timeline. All it did was delay our leadership program going live because we wanted to do that face-to-face. So we used that time to develop all 4 modules. In terms of the change program, Sunwater hasn't felt that COVID's had a significant impact, and in some ways we've been sped up rather than slowed down. So our recruitment's sped up. I think we filled 75 roles during the COVID time and managed to remotely onboard them. So there's been very little change in that space. Thanks for asking.
Cool. No worries. We've got one question there about the consistent approach for urban bulk water pricing, but we might take that offline because we're going to have to move on to the next speaker. So can everyone just raise their hands to show Jenna? She can see you when you raise your hands to show your thanks to her for that great presentation. Thanks very much, Jenna.
Thanks.
We'll move on with Yarong. So Dr. Yarong Song's from the Advanced Water Management Centre at UQ, and he's going to be talking about she's going to be talking about a sewer corrosion investigation using multidisciplinary techniques. Excellent project I really enjoyed reading about, and very close to the heart here. Trying to get the range of skills that you need into these sort of issues is really tricky. So keen to hear how you've done it, Yarong.
Thanks, Rob. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. So I'm Yarong Song. I'm from the University of Queensland. Actually, it's Advanced Water Management Center in UQ, AWMC. So I'm a postdoc research fellow in UQ, and my research is about protect sewer, like about all the corrosion or odor issues that happens in sewer a lot. So we will use multidisciplinary techniques to protect the sewers and also to investigate the mechanism of sewer corrosion as well. So first of all, like what is corrosion? Like it's a general idea like about corrosion is a physical chemical interaction between a material and its environment, which will result in the changes of the property of materials and also lead to significant degradation of the property or the function. In terms of the materials, like there are different forms of corrosion, such as the metal corrosion, which will induce the metal loss or weakening of the properties. And also the concrete corrosion, which will result in dissolving the cement by such kind of sulfuric acid in sewers, and also the swallowing of concrete by sulfate reactions. And also there are some metal corrosion in concrete sewers as well. Besides, we also have plastic corrosion, which will result in loss of the mechanical properties. In particular, what is the corrosion process in sewer system? Hope you could get some rough idea from this short video. So maybe you cannot hear the background music, but this video basically shows the corrosion processes that happens in sewer system. So it shows a gravity sewer pipe where the corrosion mostly occur. In those gravity pipes, there are a lot of things happening. There are different phases, like the wastewater phase, some sediments, in anaerobic biofilm, and sewer gas as well, and also the concrete material. We can see that, like on the concrete surface, there are a lot of bacteria growing and developing there, which can cause the sewer corrosion. The major cause of corrosion in sewer system is actually the H2S. And H2S can be generated in the wastewater phase and will be released to the gas phase in order to accelerate the development of the corrosion layer. And we can see that the corrosion happens not uniformly inside of the sewer. It mainly happens in the very hot spots, such as the tidal region or crown region. We can explain the details further. I hope this video can serve as a good starting point for the rest of the presentation. So today I'm going to introduce about the corrosion background and also the significance of protecting our sewers, and also some background or fundamental knowledge about concrete corrosion in sewer systems, and also some metal corrosion that happens in sewers. In the last part, I will introduce something we do to assess the corrosion process and also to control corrosion. First of all, the sewer system, the networks are very critical urban infrastructures, transporting wastewater from domestic or industry sites to treatment facilities. The sewer system includes pressure mains or gravity mains. Pressure mains are fully occupied by wastewater, and gravity mains relies on the gravity to transport wastewater, and most of the time they're just partially occupied. Sewer system has a very long history. In ancient civilizations, the original sewer system started to appear in China, Greece, India, Egypt, where they were mainly utilized for disposal of surface water or sanitary purpose. In the 19th century, the initial use of modern system happened in Europe, with a breakthrough happened between the scientific evidence associated the sanitary waste with the disease transmission. And later on in the 20th centuries, the use of separate wastewater collection system happened, which means the stormwater and also the sanitary water, the sewer will be constructed separately. And nowadays, sewer is a very fancy or expensive assets. So this is a picture of a Japanese sewer system, which is so grand and huge, just like a ballroom. So can you make a guess of what's the total length of sewer networks around different countries? For example, in the US, the total sewer network length is around 1.2 million kilometers, with a value estimated to be $1 trillion. And in Australia, the total length of sewer networks is more than 100,000 kilometers, with a value of the sewer infrastructures about $35 billion. And usually, it's very surprising to realize that the sewer system will account for more than 70% of the wastewater infrastructure. So, including all the wastewater treatment, transportation, and disposal, a lot of things, the sewer system is the most expensive part. However, as I mentioned above, corrosion is a very major deteriorating process in sewers. So those pictures are showing some real sewer corrosion in which some reinforcing steel bar that embedded in the concrete sewer pipes have already been exposed. So corrosion is very significantly in sewer system, and they mainly happens in the gravity sewers where the gas phase is available. In the gravity sewer pipes, their wastewater phase, their wastewater phase, some sediments, and also anaerobic biofilm on the bottom surface of sewer. So in this wastewater phase, there are a lot of H2S that will be produced and released to the sewer gas phase. And in the gas phase, on the inner surface of the pipe, some very nasty aerobic corrosion layer and biofilm will be produced. And as I mentioned before, the corrosion mainly happens in the gas phase, in this area. but they can also be classified into two corrosion hotspots. One is the tidal region right above the wastewater level, and also in the gas phase, which is called the crown region. Both of the tidal region and crown region are most susceptible to concrete corrosion in sewers. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency states that the concrete corrosion in sewers is mainly happened because of the bacteria activity, the biofilm formed here, which will reduce the 50 to 100 service life of sewer to less than 10 years, which is a huge deterioration process. The sewer corrosion can cause the sewage leakage and also pollutions of the underground water because of the sewage will be leaking around, and also the damage of the road, the communities, the buildings, and even threatening the human safety. And this picture shows the rebar exposure and also the rebar corrosion after it loses the concrete layer. Actually, in wastewater system, not only the sewer pipe itself, like all of the wastewater facilities are subject to corrosion. For example, the collection mains, the huge interceptors, pumping stations made of like concrete structures, some metal rising mains, manholes, and even for the treatment plants can be corroded. So that's the background of corrosion. And today, I'd like to introduce some mechanism or fundamental knowledge underneath the concrete corrosion process in sewers. This might be like too scientific, but I think this might help you to understand the corrosion process better. So the most famous theory about corrosion in sewers is the classic three-stage theory, because concrete corrosion in sewers is a result of a range of abiotic and biotic processes. The corrosion usually happens in the beginning when the concrete is corroded by carbonation, like carbon dioxide, and also H2S in the sewers during early stages. So this will be the stage one, the abiotic pH reduction at this phase, which will reduce the pH of concrete from the original very alkaline environment about 12 to less than 9. And then it will provide a very favorable condition for the colonization of certain bacteria at stage 2. Some neutrophilic bacteria can grow there and further oxidize H2S to produce sulfuric acid, which is very corrosive. So this is stage 2, the biological succession and pH reduction, reducing pH from 9 to less than 4. And then comes to the next stage, the active concrete corrosion stage. So at this stage, the pH will be further reduced to less than 2, which is very acidic. And at this stage, the active concrete corrosion happens, and the very severe corrosion loss of the concrete pipe will occur as well. At different corrosion stages, there are different corrosion reactions, especially between the cementitious materials and H2S and carbon dioxide in the beginning, and further the reactions between the cement and the sulfuric acid, which will reduce, producing some corrosion products such as gypsum and entringite as a major corrosion products. As some of you, if you do some like maintenance or inspection of sewer inside of the real sewer pipes, you will always notice a very nasty and fragile corrosion layer accumulated on the inner surface of concrete. So those corrosion layers are mainly composed of gypsum and entringite. They're highly expensive and very fragile minerals, which like they can grow on the concrete inner surface and are believed to cause some cracking issue, micro level cracking issue of the concrete pipes. And for our researchers, we are very interested in the cracking or corrosion process of sewers. So we also utilized some very advanced mineral analytical techniques like MLA, which shows us the colorful imaging here, and also some electrical or optical methods to observe the corrosion process. We also found out that some iron elements inside of the concrete or cement or aggregates, or even from the rebar, can also be released into the concrete itself, which can take part there and be dissolved and precipitating at the corrosion front, which is the boundary between the corrosion layer and the intact concrete. So this phenomenon, this dissolution and precipitation of iron inside of the concrete, can also cause a micro-level concrete cracking, which is a significant process of the cracking in concrete sewers. And then we like to talk about the most significant part of the corrosion, which is the microbial activities. Through the concrete corrosion processes, actually, there are a lot of bacteria taking actions there. As shown in this picture, a lot of rod-shaped bacteria, which is the sulfide oxidizing bacteria, utilizing the H2S to produce sulfuric acid, they always colonize in the corrosion layer. So the corrosion layer is very humid, very moist and fragile, with a lot of porous structures, which is favorable for the colonization of those bacteria. This table shows a lot of the different types of the bacteria living at a wide range of pH, temperature in the concrete corrosion layer. Except for the mechanism, we are also focusing on to investigate the environmental factors that controlling concrete corrosion. So the most insignificant environmental factors are the H2S levels, the humidity level, temperature inside of the sewer system, especially for H2S concentration in sewers, because of different hydraulic retention times, flow velocity, and wastewater characteristics. So the ppm of H2S in real sewers often ranges from a few ppm to hundreds of ppm. And generally, the higher concentration, the faster corrosion of sewer. Also, the humidity plays a very significant role, especially on the concrete surface, further away from the wastewater level. So the higher the humidity level is, the faster the corrosion and the more active the bacteria. Temperature also accelerates the corrosion process, both chemically and biologically. The last factor is a wastewater factor, because in the tidal region, which is very close to wastewater, the wastewater will play a very significant role. So all of the sewers can be occasionally wetted by wastewater, especially during the increased wastewater flow, the flooding events, and changes of sewer slope or special structures like sewer drops. The wastewater effects can both promote corrosion by the microbial inoculations, because there are a lot of bacteria in wastewater. The wastewater can inoculate the concrete surface and providing moisture and nutrients. But there are also like negative effects, because wastewater flow can also neutralize the acid that formed on the concrete surface, and also can scoring away the biofilm and the corrosion layer, which can inhibit corrosion as well. So the overall effects of wastewater on sewer corrosion is likely to depend on the overall balance of the positive and negative effects. As I mentioned above, the tidal region, which is close to the wastewater level, is more susceptible to concrete corrosion. So when we do the sewer inspections, we should pay a lot of attention to those regions. So this result has been published also in one of the top journals in our field. Except for the concrete corrosion mentioned above, there's also some metal corrosion in sewer system. For example, there are failures of the pump bolts due to corrosion in the pumping station or some structures. And also the failure of cast iron rising main due to the internal and also the external metal corrosion. There is also another critical metal corrosion in sewer system is the reinforcing steel bar corrosion in sewers. As we know that the concrete pipes utilized in the sewer system, they can be both plain concrete or steel reinforced. Usually for the sewer pipes with larger diameters, like diameters larger than 0.6 meters, it's common to have sufficient numbers of steel bars or rebar to be embedded in order to withstand the combination of internal pressure and external loads. So when the concrete is corroded gradually, the rebar is also subject to corrosion because of the very aggressive sewer environments. But once the rebar is corroded, like the corrosion reactions of both rebar and concrete will be accelerated fastly. And the rebar corrosion can also induces the certain amount of pressure against the boundary between rebar and concrete, and will further facilitating the concrete cracking and spalling. So we also investigated some of those using laboratory scale experiments and also field work, and got some publications as well. So the last part is the corrosion assessment and control. So for the industry, I think most of you must know more knowledge about this than me. So basically, we can use the CCTV, photo, video, the laser scanning, some radar penetration, those fancy techniques, or even the robots inside of the sewers to detect the corrosion process. But I'm more interested today to introduce some of our lab scale measurement skills to assess the sewer corrosion process. So we established the world-class corrosion chambers to simulate real sewer conditions under controlled conditions of like temperature, humidity, and H2S levels. So this is our biggest advantage, because in real sewers, all those factors are always fluctuating all the time. It's hard to control them, which is not good for fundamental investigation. So in our lab, we can achieve all those under controlled conditions. And moreover, we can simulate both tidal region corrosion by submerging the concrete coupons in wastewater, and also to simulate the gas phase crown region corrosion by expose the concrete in the H2S atmosphere. So this picture are our last version corrosion chambers. Actually, nowadays, we already upgraded our facilities, and we have commissioned 4 advanced generation like corrosion chambers in our lab with controlled H2S, air temperature, humidity level, concrete temperature, and wastewater temperature as well. So all of those factors can be precisely controlled by the PLC in our lab. And each of our corrosion chamber can hold more than 128 concrete coupons for investigation. So those chambers have been running successfully for almost 2 years, and we delivered 6 overseas consulting projects for like Italy and some European countries and Singapore as well. And currently we're doing 2 ARC linkage like scientific research projects using those corrosion chambers. We also conducted successful corrosion experiments in our pilot sewer systems established in the Innovation Center in Luggage Point. So we established several years ago, and we currently use it for several purposes. Corrosion is one of the major research topics there. We also can do some fieldwork experiments in the real sewer system, like the manholes in Gold Coast. And this picture shows the coupons, concrete coupons that we use to do the corrosion exposure. We will display the concrete samples as pairs, as duplicate samples, to expose them both in our corrosion chamber and in fieldwork or pilot sewer system. We will measure all the physical, chemical, or also the microbial community measurements there in order to assess the corrosion process. And the last part is some control method. So nowadays, there are a lot of techniques to control the odor issue and corrosion in sewers. Basically, they can be classified into the liquid phase technologies, the gas phase technologies. So liquid phase, they're targeting at inhibit the bacteria activity or preventing the H2S, like the production or partition from sewers. And for the gas-based technology, nowadays we're handling with an ARC linkage project, which is more than 100 million Australian dollars. We can investigate how we can control corrosion using advanced ventilation system. And also there are concrete material technologies such as coating, linings, and so forth. And one of our highlight is FNA, which is free nitrous acid. Currently, we're using these chemicals as a biocide to kill the bacteria or inhibit the microbial activity there. So this is also one of our ARC linkage project undergoing. So in the end, I'd like to briefly introduce our AWMC sewer team. So our team was established in 2003, and more than 15 years of experience in sewer corrosion and odor research led to 5 awards, more than 60 peer-reviewed journal papers. Actually, we have more in the past 2 years, and we have 2 patents and $4 million documented cost saving to Australian water industry. So we are a group keen in advancing the scientific knowledge of sewer, but we are also very interested to collaborate with all industry partners to make practical breakthrough. So if any of you are interested in our research or further collaborations, you are more than welcome to contact us or visit our sewer lab. So basically that's all for my presentation today. I'd like to thank to my our director, Professor Zhi Guoyuan, and Dr. Kashab, Guoming, Philip Brown, and also Shi Hu. We also thank, very appreciate all the efforts from our industry partners like Urban Utilities, our old friend, and Southeast Water, Qldwater, DC Water, and all EQ partners as well. So that's my presentation today. Thank you so much.
Thanks heaps, Yarong. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
I've got heaps of questions, but they're pretty nerdy, so maybe I need to take some of them offline. But we've got a couple of minutes, so
yeah,
you with a couple. You mentioned the positive and the negative impacts of the biofilms. Obviously, that's where all the action happens, but it can also be protected. Have there been any studies that show that different types of sewage or different areas might have different ratio of positive to negative impacts?
Yeah, recently because previously most of the research about the bacteria on the concrete sewer inner surface are randomly taken, which means the researchers or industry people take samples from random locations. But nowadays we realize at different locations, actually the communities are quite different. And especially for the area right above the wastewater level, as I mentioned, like the tidal region can be highly influenced by wastewater. So the community there is also different. So according to our research, we identify heterotrophic bacteria, which can also use organic matters to survive and to produce acid. So that might be a very highly crowded area compared to others. Yeah, they're certainly different at different area.
Okay, I might have to trace you for some papers, be interesting. You're studying the impacts of temperature of different elements. I'm assuming that high temperature increases the rate of corrosion. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, like both chemically, like the initiation of corrosion by chemicals like carbon dioxide and H2S, the chemical process can be accelerated, and both for the biological reactions, the bacteria can be like stimulated by higher temperature as well. Yeah, definitely.
And maybe time for one last quick one. Have you done any tests to see whether there's any difference between AC pipes versus other concrete types?
Other concrete types. So currently we're just using the sulfate resistant concrete as the our specimens for the most cases, but we haven't investigated different types of concrete. But for some of the consulting projects, collaborated with other overseas partners, we definitely have different types of concrete, but these are kind of confidential information. So yeah, but we also do some part of work like that.
All right, we've got 60 people online, so probably not a good time to share confidential information, but maybe I'll hit you up later.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you very much for the preso. Can you just raise your hands to show Yarong your thanks?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our final speaker for today. That's Sean Askew from Bundy Regional Council, looking at their program management software for capital delivery success. I'll hand over to you, Sean, so that there's time for questions at the end.
Thank you very much. Just going to present my screen quickly. Show the screen. There we go. Can everybody see that? I'm assuming yes.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Good old Bundy. I just want to hide my video here. There we go. Thanks for the opportunity. Good to just be able to show what we've been doing with our program management software. So to get started, a little bit about me. I'm Sean Askew. I'm a planning engineer here at Bundy Council and Water Services. I do a bit of asset management, infrastructure planning, and I've been here for 2 years. So if you don't know where Bundy is, we're central Queensland, just on the southern tip. We're probably most known for Bundy Rum. We've got a couple of turtles on the tip of the Great Barrier Reef, so come visit us if you're nearby. In terms of our asset base, and you can see there treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, about 938 kilometres of water main, sewage mains, 32,000 connections with a population of about sort of 107,000. Our capital program was about 23 million last financial year, and it just supports investments in those areas and upgrades as well. So to start with program management, I joined 2 years ago, and I was struggling to find out what was going on. So we started this process in which I'm presenting here. So I'll just give you a bit of a need as to what why I thought the need was there, our starting position, where we wanted to go, where we currently ended up. And I'll give you, there's this sort of a 6 minute video I made just to show how to do it. And then afterwards I've got a summary and a few questions. So I'm unsure what other people experienced, but when I came here, I really struggled to find some basic information on what our program was. There were multiple, let me just define programs. So our program is really like a portfolio of projects. So we have many different projects which come in, and we look to execute each of those in a financial year. To do it, we traditionally did plans on Excel. So we'd have all the projects that we were going to do. And then we'd go update it and add more projects and remove them. And one of the real challenges we had is that there were different versions of different people's PCs. The information was all static. It wasn't regularly updated. It was really difficult to see what was happening where, and you didn't know who to contact for the project. We also have some challenges in terms of being in council with roads and drainage impacting some of our assets. So they'll get some funding and they'll need to put in a new road or bridge or walkway, and it'll impact our assets. And we need to quickly react to that and get a project up and going in order to support them. We also had issues such as rework opportunities, so projects in the same location, but no one had any awareness of the two projects, and we essentially would take the plant offline at two different instances, or just had to do a bit of rework, which wasn't really great. So this is the project summary, which I'll talk about in detail. But so what we wanted to do is just to know what we were doing. We wanted to improve communication and visibility, which ultimately would lead to improved delivery of works. And why we're doing it is just to improve transparency and coordination. So our planning and delivery team is accountable to deliver projects, and the way we measure that is percentage of budget spent. And this is really where the initial need started to drive it, so that we were able to manage something, because you can't manage what you can't see. So we wanted to bring in a new tool, which I'll describe a bit later. And essentially, these were some of the things. We wanted to keep delivering projects, providing updates, tracking costs, escalating problems, and keep having project meetings. Stop isolating information or just emailing updates, and keeping information for security reasons. And that security, could be a whole range of things. But we really want to just promote transparency and collaboration. And then we saw some of the things we have to start doing is start updating in different ways and thinking about awareness and how we can leverage off other opportunities. And then we had a couple of people, you can see that during the change and after the change, and some of the metrics that we were chasing on this. So in terms of our starting position, we had a program spend of 60%. Our program visibility was an Excel and was static. The budget requests, which is essentially field requests from the operational staff, was less than 10 for that year. We were the amount of action budget requests we didn't really know, and there was minimal awareness of our program in terms of what we were doing and why we were doing it. And like I said, some of the project questions we get asked is who's accountable, what's the status, what's the latest update, why are we doing this project? And they were really hard to get answers with phone calls, meetings, seeing people, and really time consuming. So what we wanted to do is said, as an end position, we sort of wanted to have a look at our target would be 70%, so a small increase. The program would be visible and updated. We had 20 budget requests. We knew how many budget requests were actioned, and the staff were aware and could answer all the questions that generally got asked. So there are different approaches to solve this problem, and we obviously took the one on the far right there, the tool system, to create transparency and improve communication. But we could essentially throw more project managers at it. That would essentially increase our delivery percentage. We could do office support, so more people to support the project managers in delivering work and also updating relevant spreadsheets. But like I said, we went for a tool. And for the tool, we had a look at a few different ones. So I looked at Jira, Asana, MS Project, and a few others. And we weren't looking for some big enterprise solution. We were looking for something we could rapidly prototype, do it ourselves. There was fast support, and it was simple and intuitive, that didn't require heavy training. Also, we wanted to be cost effective, as we initially started a small trial just to sort of explore this area. And we identified Monday.com, bought an annual license for just less than $2,000, and off we went. So when we started the process, we would have a few challenges. And I wrote there Excel. It's comfortable, it's known, and it's safe. And Excel is an amazing tool, but some tools are used for different purposes. And in my opinion, I didn't see Excel as the right tool to create collaboration, communication, transparency of our program. So we also had a bit of a digital migration in terms of getting people on board to use it. And we had some user training. We had to get people to think in a new way of updating in different ways, and also to sort of break down those silos as here's all the information, everybody can see it, we don't really need to keep it. So as a quick guide as to what I did, I converted our Excel planning sheet into Monday.com. I tried a few layouts, which you'll see how I did later. I did an awareness presentation. I organized some support. with essentially first responder if they had any immediate questions. Monday.com was really good support, and they get back to us within 30 minutes of any issue, and then if there's any further technical support. So the total time to get this whole thing up and going was 3 weeks, which I'm trying to do 6 minutes next. But the change took a bit longer, so that's behavior in people. And we definitely had some learnings in that area as well. So what I'd like to do is just put up a video which I'm going to narrate, give a bit of a whirlwind tour of how to do it. So I'll just bring it up. So what I can do is I can share this video afterwards if anyone would be interested. Okay, so this is what Monday.com generally looks like, and what I'll do is I'll be running through the process, how we did it, and to create something. So we have dashboards, workspaces on the left, which essentially is grouping, and here I'm going to create a board, which is like an Excel sheet. So I'll just go Qldwater program. You can be shareable so that other people can also see it, and you invite them into it, so not everybody has access. So we create the board, and this is what it looks like. We'll have a couple of groups, and we'll title them accordingly. So I've just chosen the project phases here. And then we have each of those rows is essentially a project. And you'll see that I can add a new group, and I can order the groups differently. So you can see I add a couple of projects. And this is essentially what we did. And you can also choose to add more columns. So like Excel, add more columns in it functions. You can see there's dependencies. So you can do things similar in MS Project. There's long text. You can also put map locations so you can see a pin where all your projects are. And there's various other things you can explore as dates and people. But yeah, so what I'll do is I've deleted that board, and I'm just going to make a quick one, which I import from Excel. So you can see at the top row there's all my headings, and then we can go through these, and I'm just formatting it up and choosing some column titles. So we go through this, set it up, and import your Excel thing. And as you can see now, we've got all the information in one location. And we can go ahead and title it. And what I'll do, like I did previously, I'm going to speed through this, essentially create new groups. And what I'll do is I will rearrange the groups again. You can change colors as well, just personal preference, into the order of the projects. So what I did is I did the main table, and I grouped them into those different phases. And now we can add different views of this table, which are really useful. So we have a timeline for the dates. And what we can do here is we can see, you can view it in years, months, or days. And you can also start to see, how do you want to see this gap? By people who are doing it, or by groups, and then you can change the colors of those projects based on the status, which can really add different status columns and essentially configure completely. So you can click on those projects as well, and then you'll see all the information in one spot. You can resize them, which essentially change the dates, or you can shift them around as well. So if we go back to the main table, you can also set up permissions so people can't see or edit it. We've generally gone for a very open approach, as you can always see the audit history. So one of the nice things is you can do some automations. I'll just show you a status change here, where if the status is changed, then essentially some action will automatically happen. And there's very, very different types you can do: notifications, emails, moving from board to board, so you can have different sheets. And I've just put this one here to demonstrate the function. So we said when the status changes to implementation, it'll move it to essentially the group of execution. So we get implementation, and off it goes to the other group. So we also invite people to the boards. So I have Jake over here, and this gives us the sort of power so he can see everything on the board, and I can now add him to projects as well. What's useful about this is we can make updates on specific projects, and I can mention to Jake and say, Jake, what's the status of this project? When I click update, he will get an email and a notification if he's in Monday, and he can then respond to it, and all the information is kept on that thread. So essentially, if I was Jake, the information would pop up there in my inbox or under notifications, and he'll be able to click and reply on it there. Let's go back to that project. So there's other things. There's an info box where you can put documents if you want to, and the activity log, you can see who changed what when. So this information is all good, but what you'd really like to do is see a dashboard so you can manage by exception and not have to go through a whole sheet all the time. So I'll quickly create a dashboard. I'll just create a private one here where you can invite people in. You can have multiples of these boards, which are like Excel sheets, all related to one dashboard. So here we go. We'll just, I'll put a chart in, and I'm going to add a battery as well. These are widgets. And you can configure them as to how you want to see them. So for instance, this one I'm just going to call progress. And then I'll change this title just to say project groups, and I'll configure that and put some of the budget columns. You see the different types of graphs as well. So now we can start to get a bit of actual versus budget on those different areas where they are. We can see the progress, and I'll just add some money tiles as well and just a countdown. So that's pretty much it. So what you can do is you can click on the battery, which is quite nice. That will show you the projects. You can go and look at the updates where they are. So for instance, if I had a status called stuck, I'll be able to click on those and look at all the projects are stuck and who's doing it. And so we can just drill through and get more data if we want to. That's all available. So what I'll do now, I'll show you our delivery board. So this is the one we're currently doing for this year. And as you can see, here are a list of projects. Here's all the information associated with them. There's documents. Our project decision framework is attached, a link to our document management system. So we can see who's doing it, why we're doing it, and what information is available on the project. I grouped them up here based on our funding categories. And if you would like to see any updates on the project, you can essentially click on the project and scroll through, and you'll get all the information in one place. And this has really got some good benefit. I've had feedback from the guys. It's really nice to know what's going on and who to contact for different information. So I'll pause here and just see the hashtag treatment. This didn't come from our group. This came from two of the managers, senior managers, which I was really impressed with. And what it is you click on the hashtag treatment, and what it does is it searches all your boards, all environments for what is currently tagged with it, and we can see it up. So in terms of the treatment team, you can see all their activities. We can also search across everything for Jrney, and this is quite good as we've got engineering services on board, so we can start to see with pathways, roads, other initiatives in the area, and just create more awareness for anyone who's doing work in that area, and a bit of transparency as to why we do what. Okay, so that was that, and just our current position. So once we brought in that change, and we could start to see what we're doing, we noticed a remarkable improvement in performance. So I must give recognition to the program manager, Paul, the technical team and service delivery team for really, I mean, they put all the effort in and delivered the work, and we really just created a tool to see what they were doing. So it's been top work by them. And here we can see in terms of the budget spent was 5%. We've got a bit of momentum and went a bit over, which was a good thing in a sense. We can now see the program, it's live and visible to everyone. When the operational staff started to see what was happening, we got over 120 budget requests, of which we actioned 64, which was over sort of $1 million worth of additional investment, as the guys in the field really have say first-hand knowledge of what's happening with the asset. So we really be able to get some good achievements there. In terms of the operational staff, their team leaders are now aware, they know where the information is, and it's accessible to all, and you're able to answer all those questions in one place. So how we did it is I showed you just how to create one board in our delivery board, and how our process works is we have a budget request board where people put a project request in, it gets investigated, and some documentation attached, and it either goes directly for delivery if it's in this year, and then we prioritize it, or what we do is we send it for planning in future years. So it's considered, and we can leverage off opportunities.
Sean, sorry to jump in. We've only got 5 minutes left. I'm not sure how long you've got to go.
No, that's good. I was quite time conscious, so I think this should be it.
Keep going.
So yeah, in summary, and that's what we achieved. We now know what projects we're doing, why we're doing them, and we really got some good results at the end. Yep. And that's it for my presentation.
Sorry, I've broken off your flow there right at the wrong moment. Thank you very much. Really interesting stuff. You said you took only 3 weeks to make the change, but 3 months for the culture change. That seems pretty quick for a brand new system like that. Were there any barriers, or how'd you overcome them?
We are fortunate in the sense of the immediate exposure was just within our team, so we could do that within our team, and it was a need and a sort of a desire amongst the organisation or water service to see what we were doing and who was doing it. So I think based on the sort of desire, and we did an awareness presentation that really brought guys on board. Now, I'm not saying we have it perfect. I think there's still quite a bit of work we need to do and continuous improvement, but we definitely took a step in the right direction. And it's, I don't particularly relevant to smaller councils or water providers. It's a nice, easy tool which can be used for multiple different things to really provide some value.
I'm just wondering why they didn't go with Friday.com. Seems like a marketing fail.
Yeah, I know. When you hear Monday, somebody goes, "Oh, Monday, so that's not good."
Does it have to be online? Can you use it offline?
As far as I'm aware, we haven't tried it offline. They do have an app, which I haven't tested offline, but it is web-based, and also it actually worked quite well during COVID, with everybody needing to be remote and work from different locations. It was really good in that sense as well.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. We had one comment from the audience. So Jeff Hales said that he uses it, and the benefit he gets is showing dependencies between tasks so that you can see whether you're overstressing staff and too many tasks at once.
Yes, workload and resource planning.
Yeah, that would be nice to do over your geographical spread online. Would be good. Well, thank you very much. We probably run out of time, so I might cut it off there. But can you please show your appreciation for Sean and his presentation by raising your hands?
Thanks, all.
Okay, come on, bit of thumbs up symbol. Thank you very much, Sean, and thank you to everyone for attending today and listening. Before you go, can I just do one last plug for the Prezos next month? So on the 17th of September, if you want to know how we're going to solve the PFAS dilemma with biosolids and turn biosolids into something useful, as well as making energy on the side, then you're going to really want to come and listen to Joanna's presentation on the gasification program at Logan. If you want to know how we're going to drive change in our small communities that are probably unsustainable because of their small rate base, but it's difficult to measure and know how to provide your customer service obligations, then you want to hear about Chris Adams' Show Me the Money presentation. And finally, probably which will draw the biggest audience, Mark Herman's presentation on drilling under the Broadwater at Gold Coast to take recycled water out to their seaway outfall. Always great stories, those big drilling projects. So thank you again. We'll see you in a month on the 17th, if not before, at Carly's Fundamentals webinars. And thank you again for joining us.